Doom Nation, we are back. Welcome to the Captain's Quarters. It's the Captain and the Skags as always. And today, it's a great day in Doomed history. We got the third Doomed man, the Unfit Statesman, finally here with us in person. Super excited to have the Unfit Statesman on. You guys have seen him on several episodes. We've been on his show. So as always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Our goal we're going to set new goals for 2021. But our continuing goal is to get over 100 subscribers on YouTube. So make sure you you hit that subscribe button. So let's dive into it. It's been a crazy week, and what's today? January 12th.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, the beginning of the end.
It doesn't matter what the fuck the day
Yeah.
is. It's just
Yeah.
This is the end.
This time next year, we're gonna throw a jacket on and pull a mask out and go, huh. That was funny, and then we're gonna run away from roving gangs, and
Well, but this time next year, we won't even be able to wear like the surgical masks. It'll have to be like those Bane masks.
Yeah,
because there'll be levels of radiation stemming from the nuke that North Korea dropped on us, but not for any reason. They just did it by accident.
Yeah. Next year, it's just gonna be me and the Bo on the podcast.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
It's literally just a live stream of you going around and murdering anybody that you don't know in your neighborhood.
Big Dick Rick Grimes just blasting people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So anyway, Zach, cheers. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the little trip up here as you guys drink coffee and I drink a man's drink.
We drank a few man's drinks before. We actually did a new Doomed review of, what was it called over there? Barrel Whiskey.
Yep. And we got our boy Zoo, the guy on Google back there. Thank you, Zoo.
Slavic Rube.
Yep, the Rube. As he just sits back there and drinks bourbon, maybe Google something.
So what did you think about the whole Capitol riot?
Yeah. Well, here the
fallout from them.
The low-hanging fruit of all that was easy to
entertaining TV.
Well, that was. The guy in the Viking.
Oh, that was
his painting his face.
Do you think people are going to be him for Halloween next year?
If they're not, they're dumb.
Thank
If they're
you.
not, they're dumb. That is a big, advocation for the prenatal test for Down syndrome. Like that guy, he clearly, like, here's the thing. There's a lot of people who go like, that's courageous. That's okay. But also he's a guy who didn't wear a shirt in DC in the winter and put a Viking hat on and painted his face and stormed the Capitol and then was shocked when he got arrested, and now that he just got arrested, and now he's on like a hunger strike because the prison won't feed him organic food.
So I stated this the last podcast that I feel this was a false flag operation. I feel there was some fuckery afoot, and I just don't feel any real Trump supporters are in prison right now on a hunger strike because it's not organic food.
It is hard to believe. It's one of those things where you watch it happen, and in your mind, the first thing it's weird when you watch it and the first thing that comes to your mind is whatever I'm seeing isn't it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing when you look at something and you see what's happening and you know that you can't even trust what you're seeing. It's so blaring, it's so blatantly obvious. Was it a psyop? Was it
Yeah. No.
Who cares? I don't really. The only thing was, when I was watching it, I just said, I can't wait for everybody to, give their 2 cents on this. Because here's what I said, and I'm sure I'm not the only. I'm sure this has been reiterated multiple times. The people who who thought that the Antifa riots were righteous were going to come out and say this was a coup, this was a domestic terrorist attack, and then the people who were condemning the Antifa riots were going to come out and say this is fine. Mm-hmm. And it just shows like the ideological consistency between
divide.
Literally all I wanted, and I found it. There was one guy on Twitter who I saw, and I forget his name, and unfortunately I can't give him a shout out, but he said, I don't agree with him, but he said, I didn't condemn the Antifa riots, I don't condemn this Capitol Hill riot. And I went,
that's respectable.
At least you're not a fucking cunt about this.
I was listening to something today, and what the guy said was true. If you didn't condemn the BLM riot, where people's small businesses were destroyed, where buildings were burned, where literally, I forget his name at the top of my head, but you know, a black business owner was killed during these BLM riots, and nobody knows his name. Even you know, we're in the middle of this, and I can't even remember it. If you didn't condemn those actions, shut the fuck up on the Capitol riots. Because the fact of the matter is, BLM protests and riots lasted for several months. This lasted for several hours. If you're okay with what happened over the summer and you're not okay with this, there's something wrong with you. And vice versa. If if I was excited last week, but I still never really I feel this is what we should have done when they signed that stimulus bill. I think we should have stormed the Capitol building. But like, I still don't agree with what took place, the property damage and the violence and stuff like that, now that things have cooled down. But if you can't condone one or the other and condemn one or the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm always trying to point out there's so much fucking hypocrisy nowadays, you know?
Dripping in it.
I don't think either were a good idea. Like,
no.
Violence is really not going to get anywhere besides make people more divided.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say about it. I'm going to say exactly what I said about the Antifa riots. This is just not the most effective or efficient way to get out your political point.
Right.
Because you're losing credibility.
Right.
When you show up with the guy, again, who has a Viking helmet on, nobody's going to take you seriously.
Nah.
And you can't get pissed at them for not taking you seriously. Okay? Because if you, I mean, listen, I'm going to ask every member of your audience, would you, even if you, I'm sure a lot of you agree that the government is corrupt and, you know, that the
they don't
election,
listen to us, they don't hear us.
Right. There's fraudulent elections, not just this one, many
decades.
Many election. But would you paint your face, put on a Viking helmet, take your shirt off in the winter in D.C., and go inside the Capitol and be confident that what you're doing is rational? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would never waste my time. You know, right now I don't have a job. You didn't see me there.
Yeah.
I'm not a Trump supporter, but even if it was Bernie, we were
Although,
for
if I was
something, I would have never have gone waste my time doing such a thing.
If I was there, I'd probably wear the captain's hat.
I could see that. No, most logical people. Those were not logical people.
I get you. So one thing that
that's a tough thing to hitch your wagon to. There is like the Vikings hat guy.
Yeah.
Who's kind of like,
this is our leader.
Yeah, like the in shape, out of shape guy, and you're like, what are you? What are you?
Yeah.
What are you?
The dad bod running through the Capitol. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? We were actually talking about how the Vikings didn't have horns on their helmets or whatever. Remember in our Christmas special, you mentioned that. So comes full circle.
Yeah.
The thing. Oh man, where do I want to go with this?
Captain trying to be politically correct.
Yeah, it's just the downfall of this really is that maybe 75, 100 people breached the Capitol. There was a couple of 100,000 Trump supporters there protesting.
Yeah.
And because of this goes the same for all the BLM protests, that we saw video after video of people smashing windows and the rest of the BLM protests saying, "Don't do that, please stop." You know, right now as a Republican, as a Trump supporter, we're basically labeled as domestic terrorists because of the actions of a few hundred people. You know what I'm saying? Like the few hundred people, maybe. I'll give it a round. I don't think there's more than that got into the Capitol. I think that got onto the Capitol.
Wait. What was the number that you just gave?
About like 100.
You said 75.
75 to 100 people got into the Capitol on the property of the Capitol. Much more.
I guess I don't know.
It was more.
Yeah.
Than that. I've seen videos of people getting in and like the
guy on the Google. Let's see.
Yep.
But regardless, even if it's 200, 300 people who actually got into the Capitol, there was still 500,000 people outside who didn't do this. You know what I mean? Like the actions of a small group out of this large group fucked it for everybody. And the same thing goes for the people who burned down the Target during the BLM protests. You know what I mean? Like it ruins, like you said, it screws up your credibility. It sets you back.
Do you think had they the opportunity, those people who were, trying to get in would not have got in had they not had the opportunity? It might be more of the thousands on the outside couldn't fit through the doorway to get in.
Nah.
I think they would have went in if they had to, if it was possible.
On my side of it, resistance. I still feel there's a level of a false flag operation that took place, where I won't even say Antifa, we'll just say paid actors were part of the breach.
Well,
and I think some real riled up Trump supporters, they ran with it too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so that night would have been last Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I interviewed a person who was on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he said he did feel that there were agents provocateur there. And he said it's, he's not making this claim because he's a Trump supporter. He's not a Trump supporter. He said that for the most part, in those Antifa rallies, there were also people there to provoke, probably set by, whether it's intelligence community, whether it's the government, whether it's
Soros.
A private institute, whatever it may be. There were people there
to cause problems. And he said he felt the same way in this riot. And it's, every time I bring this up to somebody, who really doesn't follow the history of the intelligence communities or the government, it's like, that this has been proven now. Yeah.
That they've done this. And they do it they've done it multiple times, and they continue to do it. It's not like this is now kind of one of those conspiracy theories where you're like, did they or didn't they? There's a lot of evidence, but there's no solid. No, there's solid evidence now. There's records.
Yeah. That
this took place. Why wouldn't it happen now? Why wouldn't something like that happen now? So
this is the perfect storm for.
Well, it is the perfect storm for turning people against each other, because then when people like you and like, we watch the news, and we see what Antifa's doing, and we go, oh yeah, there's just a bunch of faggots. There's a bunch of faggots from the Upper West Side of New York who grew up rich, who don't have anything to do during quarantine, so they did a little blow on the dresser.
De Blasio's daughter.
Right. They did, and they showed up. Was that part of it? Sure. But you can't tell me that all of that happened. The burning down of buildings, the brick hitting the officer in the back of the head. There had to be somebody there getting people riled up.
If you review back to the Copcast that we had with our friend who is an NYPD officer who still remains unnamed, who
is by default racist, according to
yes.
I'm just taking the
no. Well, NYPD is racist, but the Capitol Police are heroes now, which is just more hypocrisy.
That's another thing too. Just I want to, not that it matters at this point, but there was a difference on how the DC Metro Police acted toward the protesters and the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police kind of
just let them in.
They were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it! Don't do that. Stop.
Hey, you know what though? I said this at the beginning. You're one of these DC police officers. Hey, they defunded me. Go fuck shit up, bro.
I saw one video of like a stream of protesters coming into the Capitol, and the doors were opened by the police, and they stood to the sides and allowed everybody to come in, and one of the cops can be heard saying, I disagree with it, but I respect it, as people are walking in.
It, this
he could clearly be heard saying that.
This is the strange.
Very.
This is the hole that the Democrats have dug us in. So now I know you have some points that you wanted to get into. Now, something that really aggravated me that no one talks about is, okay, so everybody's making this riot about race, and this is what you wanted to talk about before. But DC, the District of Columbia, set new rules and regulations for how police are allowed to handle riots after the BLM protests took place. So there's that picture of all the National Guard members standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, which was also fucking twisted, saying, oh, look at how they protected the Capitol. And I even fell for that. I'm sorry, I made a mistake in our last podcast saying that there's a picture of all these National Guard members, soldiers, standing on the steps of the Capitol. It was actually the Lincoln Memorial. And the District of Columbia made a new rule, or a new law, whatever you want to call it, saying that you can no longer use rubber bullets and tear gas on protesters. Look it up. It's an actual law now. So for everyone who's saying, oh, if it was BLM fucking storming the Capitol, it would have been a different situation. No, it wouldn't. They changed the rules of how the police deal with rioters because of BLM, and now because it's Trump supporters, mow them down.
Well,
why didn't we mow them down? We should have shot them all.
Not only that, but in 1967, armed Black Panthers stormed the Capitol. Nobody was shot, and all the protesters were cleared of any charges.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. It's quite interesting that they literally just they took over the Capitol, and they wanted to be heard.
I know you have topics you want to talk about, but I'm here to ruin your fucking podcast.
Go for it. That's why we had you on.
Real quick. Did you find out how many people actually?
Yeah, for Christ!
entered the
You've been looking it up for 25
He's
minutes.
on Pornhub, guys. Leave him alone.
Jesus.
I gotta do something in between searches. But no,
Get off a tour. What are you trying to buy?
the amount of people that made it in. I searched like 4 or 5 different news.
They're not giving that
I know,
information.
that's the thing. But
So
13 people were charged. That's the only thing I can find.
okay,
That sounds like a low number. Good.
Yeah.
13 people were in
Well,
charge.
okay, well-
or charged.
Federal
Oh,
crimes.
okay.
13 people were charged, but there is 160 plus open cases by the FBI, which also brings me to another topic. The media and the left, and even now Republicans that have condemned these actions for a week now, almost just under a week now. Okay, how far are we going to take this? Because now the FBI is on the case. They didn't even bother looking into Hunter Biden's fucking laptop while he's banging his niece. But here we go. We got 160 plus cases, and
Yeah, but okay. Well, just to be fair, she cummed hard. If you didn't see that hammer dick,
He's satisfied. He does have.
yes, I remember you were quite
got
proud
a-
of his dick.
Aha.
I am.
Look,
Look,
Yeah.
if there's any reason to vote for Joe Biden, it's his son's penis.
Yeah, well,
Honestly, like if there is a reason to do it, that is the reason.
what is he, like 6 M&Ms like long or something? Remember he had the Skittles that he was measuring it with or something?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that, where he had a
But-
bunch of candy on his dick. Yeah.
I just remember I remember seeing it for the first time, and the one that I originally saw got taken off very quickly because it was on Instagram. I think
Hunter Biden's dick was
But-
on Instagram?
well, the link I should say
Okay,
the link was
okay.
on Instagram and it got taken down right away. But
Shocking.
I remember seeing it. It was a lone dick, just a lone dick, and I remember seeing it and going, "Is that what it takes to be rich in this country? Like, is that the prerequisite to being successful in this country? Because I'm fucked."
I say none of us are going to be that
Yeah.
rich if that's
Here's what I'll say about the
I want to say no, but I don't know.
no. Yeah.
I guess I'm not rich yet, so I guess it ain't big enough.
Well, I mean, Sheldon Adler, or what? Sheldon
Adelson.
Adelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just died today, and I'm pretty sure just based on his face, he had a tiny dick.
Yeah.
So, and he was successful. So
He had a
maybe
little
it's
chubby.
Yeah,
a
for
chode.
Sure. Yeah,
Showed.
he had a dick that couldn't like quite get past his nose length. That fucking.
Is it in yet? Baby, I'm done.
I'm a supporter of Israel. I'm a big supporter of Israel.
Let me
Kill those
give my take you were saying before how when the whole riot was happening,
Yeah.
you were sitting there and you couldn't wait to see people's reactions, right?
Yeah.
I
I
agree with
said
you.
this. The media is going to be a nightmare, and I was not wrong.
I felt the same way, and then I was on Twitter, Facebook, etc., watching people's reactions.
Hold on. The best text you sent me all week, you were like, you need to get on Twitter. It's a fucking war zone right now.
Yeah, and it was. And one of the first takes or reactions a lot of people had was saying that this white nationalist country responded differently to this riot as they did to the Black Lives Matter riots, and then citing those pictures you were talking about before, and etc. I made the point, I think on the last podcast, was there was a reason why they responded to the Black Lives Matter Antifa riots, right?
It's a solid point, too.
Because there was a precedent set from the original riot after George Floyd was murdered. The city went up in arms, in flames, violence. That was the precedent set. It didn't happen in Washington originally. It happened in Minnesota. So now the police, the National Guard, etc., in Washington have this precedent that these protests get violent. We need to be prepared to defend Washington from violence in another Black Lives Matter Antifa protest. This was the first time a Trump protest really got out of hand and went crazy like this. So they weren't prepared for some reason, although they should have been prepared. They weren't.
Yeah.
So, if you just immediately just jump, like so many people just jumped into the race narrative, you just, I feel like they want us to jump into the race.
They have
narrative.
no because they have no backbone to this story. It is the first time. Your phone. Don't worry. Keep going, guys.
That just further divides people. That's first of all, it's not true. The reason why they didn't prepare for this is because they had no precedent. They were just sloppy. They didn't think that the Trump rally was going to go crazy.
No.
The same way this was the first time it went crazy.
Thank you, Google guy.
I got
Well, and my thing too was, especially with a lot of people who were saying, "Oh, this was a coup. This was this was a domestic terrorist attack."
You know what was a coup? The fucking Russia gate.
I question that even, but it's these people who are like, they stormed the Capitol. They took Nancy Pelosi's podium. They stood in the House. Listen, motherfucker, you are the people, right? You are the BLM people. You are the Antifa people. You are the Democrats. You're the one that are saying that we are systemically racist and the government is perpetrating violence against minorities. The House chambers is where that comes from.
Yeah.
Why is this sanctimonious to you all of a sudden?
That the one thing that I agreed about with this particular
Was the taking of the podium, and I still stand by that guy. I don't care what his political preference was. If anybody stormed in and took Nancy Pelosi's podium, I would stand by them 100% of the time.
Did you hear that her laptop got stolen?
Yeah, but it was only for presentations. There was no real information. That's what I thought.
I'm sure every device she owns is dirty.
Nancy Pelosi's titties are kind of...
Gross? Yeah.
No, they're up. She's 80 years old, guys.
Well, that's all the adrenochrome.
it could be.
It could be.
Could be socks too. Just
Could
lots
be.
of socks.
Could
in her bra.
Well, when you have a steady diet of, cocktail onions and gin, you kind of age a different, way.
I wanted to make one more point before I
pussy
forget
tastes like
my
salt.
my train of thought before.
Like a tequila shot.
Yeah.
We were talking about how people are trying to make it into a racial thing.
We got Pelosi's titties up there.
Yeah, I mean, I want you during this segment of the podcast right now to pull up that exact picture that he has. For 80 years old, I'm coming like in 3 minutes.
Them the titties.
Yeah.
That could be Photoshop too, though. It could
Probably.
be that could be some Instagram.
I don't
You got
know.
any AOC pictures like that, bro?
Boy.
No, but I
guys just looking.
I think it's hilarious that they took Nancy Pelosi. It's like, you understand that where they marched is where the plans were formulated to commit war crimes.
Yeah.
Like, why
what
all
you
of a
mean.
sudden is this holy ground to
The invasion of Iraq, the invasion,
Well, and not only that, but
unilateral military.
everybody, if you go to any BLM or Antifa protester and say, "What do you think about the '88 crack bill? What do you think about the '94 crime bills? What are your opinions on that?" They go, "It's horrible." It's like, well, that all happened here, and it's kind of the same people. Biden,
Yeah.
why?
That's why when this took place, I got super excited. Yeah, sure, fine. Because the one thing I gotta say is not that the right wing or that Trump supporters were right in any shape or form. Don't get it mixed up there. But if you want to burn down shit, if you want to break shit, let's take it to the fucking problem. BLM protests turned into riots. Why? Because, I don't know, the Democratic Party hasn't listened to the black community in over 20, 30, 40 decades.
That's the
now.
only good thing that they've done.
I mean, these representatives don't represent their people anymore. And now we had a point where we took the fight to your home, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you made the point actually in the past episode, if there's a place that you're going to do such a thing like this,
it should be the Capitol.
We fucking pay for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we technically didn't break into nothing. This is our fucking house. This is our Capitol. The White House is a different story because the president is insulated. The president does need to be protected. But everyone underneath him are elected officials. You work
So is he.
for us.
So what are you trying to say that they're?
Yeah,
they
but
could be
he's
drunk,
but when you
dragged
get to
out
the
and
top,
hung
when you get to
any less than him.
after the fucking stimulus bill, I would have been fine with seeing him on the lynching, the lynching line as well. But to burn down a Target and to bust up somebody's small business
Your
that
own
they
neighborhood.
sunk every fucking penny that they ever made into this business to put food on the table so they don't have to answer to somebody, so they could be their own boss and support their own lifestyle. To destroy that is a disgrace. To fuck up the Capitol where the people who you voted in are not listening to you, go fuck that shit up.
that's another thing too. It's you have to contextualize the situation here. Pelosi,
Who's been missing for 48 hours.
AOC,
Sexy as fuck.
McConnell.
Not sexy as fuck.
Therefore, that's debatable. Easy.
You like nice chins.
I'll leave.
If you want 6 chins on your chin.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of slop. You put, a little Vaseline.
Hey, Kentucky, bro.
Those
I bet
people,
you McConnell knows a lot about bourbon.
Those people are fine. What happened at the Capitol affected not a single member of Congress. They're fine, and they're still doing a hell of a lot better than you and I ever will.
That's a good point.
The business owner who had his store broken into and
Is
burned
still
down
not recovered.
not only was he shut down so he didn't have an opportunity to make money. Now he does not have a building to run a business out of. And now the insurance has a reason to fuck him because guess what? They will. So
There's no riot insurance.
do I care a little bit more about the guy who really now doesn't have an option to feed his family versus AOC who still gets hundreds of thousands of dollars every year? Yeah, I do, because that's shitty. That's a shitty thing to do. They kicked a small store owner to death, and they caught it on video. It was one of the hardest.
Oh,
things.
the dude, yeah, I know.
It was one of the hardest things to watch during the whole Antifa riot. So
that was one of the most brutal beatings.
It was tough to watch. Like, seriously, it was tough to watch and not get
Angry,
emotional, and like angry. But again, that's context. That's why people on in Antifa and that's why, in my opinion, that was a little worse. In principle, the act of storming, whatever, I really actually don't care. I don't condone violence, but I don't mind a little threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
this was the first, the way I put it into some type of context to give it some type of perspective here. So if you are a member of Doom Nation, if you listen to Two Doom Men, if you listen to Unfit Statesmen, we obviously don't follow the path that the media takes. I'm sure you could agree on this, and I know you do. None of us like the media. And this was the first time in years and years and years and decades. I can't even imagine how many years that whether this was a false flag event, whether this was, Antifa dressed as Trump supporters, or if this was actual Trump supporters, this is the first time the establishment took one on the chin from the people on their home turf. Because for years, the reason we're in this position right now is because for years, the people have been silent. These elected officials have ignored us. These elected officials have gotten away with bloody murder. These elected officials have promised us A and never delivered and went a completely different route on B. There's elected officials who, I'm pretty sure Obama's first term, before he got elected, he was in favor of a border wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now we don't have the $500 billion it's going to take to build the border wall, but we have $700 billion after we spent the $500 billion that we didn't have to send to other foreign nations for an American COVID relief bill. This is the first time the establishment has taken a right hook on the chin from we the people.
I want to parlay what you're saying, right? What you're
you
saying,
want to parlor?
Parlay. Parlor's gone. That's out. That's out.
You know what?
You want to know the best part about Parlor? We've been we try and split up the work. There's 2 of us here. He's like, all right, why don't you start, controlling the Parlor account? I'm like, no problem. Let me log on.
As soon as I said that, they got
I was like, let me log on. Let me learn how to use Parlor. I started reading all my Anon fucking posts and shit and started figuring out how Parlor works. I was on Parlor for 24 hours and the next day, gone.
So I had one for maybe 4 months, 5 months.
Oh, you've been on it longer than we have.
Yeah, and I just, what's funny?
The app sucks.
The app
does.
It did suck, but here's the thing. Most people went on there to make conservative political points. I don't think I ever made a single political point on Parlor. I was just so happy to be on a platform where I could be saying
call people faggots,
faggot, retard, literally whatever. And so most of my shit was not even political. It was just
you just letting out aggression,
calling people faggots and retards, and not with impunity, no consequences. just nothing.
You're proving Amazon's
Amazon,
point,
right,
point here
yeah.
as to why they had to remove
No, well,
them.
here actually,
Although, I mean, those are like mean things to say, right? I know most of this you're saying it sarcastically.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
and
mean?
here's-
You're saying it funnily, but
no,
what were you gonna
actually,
say?
technically,
He's making Amazon right.
you could say that though.
Yeah.
As mean and as terrible as some of those words might be, you're not calling to like a specific person to kill them or something. You're saying something disgusting about a certain person,
Well, and-
sarcastically albeit, but you're allowed to say that.
not only that, but Amazon's point is that type of language perpetuates negative mindsets toward groups of people or violence towards groups of people. There's no
Towards groups of people who haven't been attacked
Well,
in
first
years.
of all, I mean, listen, I'm pretty sure I have excuses to get out of this. I have 3 gay cousins and a retarded aunt. I mean, what are you
Christ.
are you going to sit here and tell me that I value their lives less because I say those words?
No.
I mean, obviously. So, I mean, their whole point is we have to censor this type of shit because it's perpetrating violence. It's perpetrating suppression against these groups of people. Well, there's no evidence whatsoever
Right.
that using that language has ever perpetrated suppression against that. Not only that, I mean, listen, if you want somebody to blame for the suppression of black people always act like it's
The
racist.
Democrats.
It's like the culture. It was like the societal norm to be racist. Jim Crow was not a societal norm. It was government mandated. What a lot of people don't understand is Jim Crow's that era were laws.
Right,
There
Jim
were
Crow
laws that said you couldn't serve a black person.
Yes.
It wasn't that every single person in America just didn't want to serve black people.
It wasn't. Yeah, it
They
wasn't-
were terrified that if they served black people, they'd be shut down.
Yeah.
Not excusing it, just to be clear.
right. It's true.
They should have stood up to it. They
Yeah.
should have had a little bit more balls and stood up to it. But I'm saying that if you're looking for a person or an entity to blame for suppression, it's not
Twitter?
It's not the
Twatter Jack.
Well, it's not even that. It's not the conversariat. It's not people talking to people using harsh words.
I agree.
It's an
100%.
entity that has way more power than it should.
Yes.
Because just
Yeah.
to be clear, me saying faggot on Parler, I don't have any
Right.
power.
to oppress anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
You don't.
and
but Twitter,
Yeah.
Twitter does. The United States government, they do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the
So
danger.
what did you want to say? Do you even remember your point anymore?
Yeah, my point before was you were saying that you were talking about the Trump supporters and how they feel like the system hasn't worked for them.
Yeah, but you've been ignored.
And
Yeah,
there's-
and
that
attacked.
could be a reason why they lashed out. And I wanted to point out that that's the same. There's not that much in between the
Oh,
Black
no.
Lives Matter
Yes.
people and the Trump people, right?
If-
they both feel wronged by
Yeah.
by like society,
If-
by the system for similar reasons. Although
Yeah.
they'll never know it because they'll never really have that conversation.
If anything, today, right now, January 12th, 2021, if anything, and this is such a wild, thought that it would be, fucking pushed back on. BLM and Trump supporters have more in common right now than they ever have. Your elected officials do not hear you. Your elected officials do not care why you are doing what you're doing. Trump supporters feel there was a fraudulent election, and that is a huge fucking problem. Whether you say there isn't or there isn't, there should be someone out there trying to prove that it wasn't a fraudulent election. And you made that point last week that, the accused doesn't have to prove themselves. But
Right, Joe Biden does not have to
Right.
prove that he didn't
right,
steal that he
but
stole the election.
there's 75 million people out there who feel the election was stolen from them. Now, on the flip side with BLM, forget the actual organization because they're communists, but the actual movement of Black Lives Matter 100% is a real thing. And the entire black community feels like they are not being heard by their elected officials, that there's a problem with the cops. Republicans are feeling that they are not being heard, that the election was kind of fucky. Fix the problem for both groups, we wouldn't be burning down and breaking into buildings.
Right, or listen to both groups, hear
Yes,
people's
yes,
objections.
you're an elected official. You serve us, not your special interest groups. And this is where the fucking problem lies.
Yeah.
Right now, we have more in common with each other than we don't, but the media is going to divide us.
So what you just said, it's the government is supposed to serve the people. De Blasio is now prosecuting anybody who works for the city in New York who was at the Capitol building. He's now firing them. Okay.
Well, who was there?
I don't know. They didn't specify. But in his speech, he said, if you went to the Capitol building and stormed in, then you don't deserve to serve the government. Catch that? You don't deserve to serve the
Right.
government.
You
Let's
serve
let's
the people.
Now,
let's
where-
read
right.
read what
So,
he
but-
really
but-
said. You don't deserve to be on my team.
Well,
you don't serve the same the same leader as I do.
So what ideology do we see the state being the entity that everyone else works in tandem to serve?
What do you mean?
Communism, Marxism.
Yeah.
Yes.
The state.
Yes. Oh yes.
Right.
At the current
In-
state right
right.
now, yeah, communism.
In
So-
the communist state, right? You you exist to like serve the state, not to
Right.
serve yourself or
Yeah.
the people.
Right.
The state. That's sort of exactly what De Blasio was saying. in
When he
that.
said,
I
well,
missed
and
it.
he
I
said-
missed this completely.
He just released it like a few hours ago, I think.
Oh, that's why I
Yeah,
missed it because
but-
I'm still on Como, possibly legalizing marijuana.
And good for him. But
Good for me.
Yeah, that fucking catcher's mitt of a wop. Fucking.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You can't. What we're seeing right now is we have politicians who literally don't even buy into the system of democracy and capitalism. Like De Blasio thinking that the city officials serve the government and not the people. Okay, well that means that we have two different goals here. Okay, and way back when, we'll say, very early on, it's split early. People don't realize how early it's split. But say let's go back to like the 1880s, after the Civil War, obviously. Everybody understood, that the government served the people, and that we're working toward a similar goal. It's just this side says,
They also had a well-regulated militia back then to keep the government in line. I said this on the last podcast. We need to bring back well-regulated militias.
Yeah.
This is the problem on the war on the Second Amendment.
ban him, not me.
I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. I don't give a shit because you know what? It was a fucking deterrent.
yeah, but do you know how
For
many
the people in
retarded
power.
people are gonna take that
And
and
that
go,
militia.
I'm gonna do my militia.
Well, no,
And then
that's
what's gonna
not a
happen-
well-regulated militia.
Yeah, well, it is in their mind, in their fucking
their problem.
retarded Down syndrome mind. And what's going to happen is there's going to be enough people who are just as retarded or more retarded than them to join it,
And
then
just
all
start
of
a
a sudden,
war.
Well, and because a lot of times too, this is an important point that I think a lot of people miss is the types of people who are willing to form a militia to storm the Capitol in face paint and Viking. Those and the people that are willing to take that type of action, for the most part, also have a bit of insanity in them.
Yes.
Because that, for the most part, what we're seeing there is a risk factor. We're going, this person is willing to take a pretty massive risk and form a fucking militia.
Yeah.
Or storm the Capitol with no shirt on and face paint. The problem is, if you study psychiatry, a lot of people who are willing to take that risk, the reason that they are willing to take the risk is because they lack a lot of they're not very grounded. They're very impulsive. They're oftentimes they don't analyze situations
Talking to a
rationally.
very impulsive guy. So.
Yes, well, and they're oftentimes extremely emotional. A lot of times they show signs of dissociative disorders. Okay, so you always look for like the George Washingtons who are willing to rebel against the. But the problem is a lot of the people who are willing to take that risk aren't always the most well thought out, and it's very rare to find somebody who's willing to
those
take
who
that
become
risk.
the leader. Yeah.
So what you're going to see is if you just started doing militias, the majority of militias are going to be led by people
Loons.
who aren't.
Loons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got some information from the guy on Google over
Okay.
there. Do you want to say it or do you want me to read it out here?
You read it because
All right.
it's not going to be heard.
So, de Blasio's quote, "If we have proof that someone violently attacked our United States government, they will not be working for New York City any longer." So basically more, of this censorship, killing the Republican Party, that if you're not on our side, we're firing you now. Like your job, if you were in Washington and you acted a certain way, you're getting a boot.
There's been a lot of that. There's been a precedent has now been set with what happened over a weekend in terms of censorship and this.
Oh, well, and you know what's crazy? I mean, honestly, you know what? I've never been a fan of Merkel. She's usually been quite irrational.
Isn't it weird to see a few of these people support Trump?
Yes.
Right, so
Posted
You
about
said that
today.
too.
Merkel comes out, she says what Twitter's doing is
Wrong.
wrong.
So did the
There's
president
been
of Mexico.
there was Mexico. There were multiple French politicians. And by the way, just to be clear, anybody who overlaps with Two Doomed Men and Unfit Statesmen who listen to both, you know that I think the French are filthy people. But
Meanwhile, me and him are full in favor of a new French Revolution to take place.
French are filthy. Enough with the fucking enough. I drink wine at noon. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Okay, go rape. They're good at that. That's what they're good at. They're good at sticking their long.
Hey, but you know what though? Once one of their politicians fucking blink the wrong way, they will fuck them up.
Yeah, they're a reactionary group.
Yeah.
I'll give it to
I
them. They're not
appreciate
pussies
that. Yeah.
when they come to when it comes to
And
protests.
there needs to be more people like that, as far as I'm concerned.
The Yellow Vest protests, they don't give a fuck.
Yep.
But a few French politicians came out and said this is bullshit. The Ugandan government.
Yes, banned. I just
banned-
posted about
today.
that. They banned Facebook, Twitter, all social media.
I think Twitter's stock
Yeah.
went down about $5 billion.
$5 billion. Elon Musk. Everybody's calling for Elon Musk
To make a phone,
to
right?
buy
phone and a social media.
to either do that or buy Twitter and delete it.
Are you? Jack would never do that. Jack Dorsey would never do that. That guy's Bin Laden's fucking brainchild.
Yeah,
Just by looks, solely on looks, solely
Yeah.
on looks.
with
by
that
the way.
fucking beard of his.
Yeah.
Can we talk real quick?
Give him
about,
3 years, he'll convert to Islam and stop eating pork. And to that I say the worst crime there is stop eating pork.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds
The
good.
reason
I had a good pork chop this
why-
weekend.
Here's what I'm going to get very offensive. The reasons why Muslims are violent is because they don't eat pork.
Oh man, I mean they're missing out on good food.
Yeah, you know.
Can we talk real quick about obviously everybody knows by now Trump got banned from everything.
It ain't just Trump, though.
I just want to talk about the actual reasoning why.
Oh
Twitter
yeah, go
banned
into this.
him,
You had a very good point.
Which I have it on here.
Yeah.
So Twitter banned Trump for 24 hours. Then they changed their mind based on two specific tweets, which they
Hmm.
quoted. This is on their website, and I'm going to read them off here and read off a little bit of their reasoning.
So on top of that, part of the reason why Twitter went back on their 24-hour ban was influence from Facebook, who further continued their ban to not only include Trump, but to include what I believe is also his family members. So imagine, little Baron Trump can't fucking have a Facebook and hit on all these little bitches in his middle school or high school, wherever the fuck he is, because his last name is Trump.
Could be. Let me
Could be.
I'm sure he'll do fine with pussy.
Oh, no, he'll be
do
fine.
with
Yeah,
pussy.
swimming in it right now.
I mean, it's very weird to talk about a 14-year-old sexual desire, but listen, if you're gonna come, to
Listen,
this
if you're
podcast-
Trump's son, I'm pretty sure you're swimming in it.
let me read this right because
Probably
Hunter
fucks
Biden is,
No, he
so-
fucks his mother. I'm sure.
Christ.
I wouldn't be surprised. People need to hear this stuff. Twitter's citing two specific tweets as to why they had to ban him. And they're saying after a close review of recent tweets from Donald Trump's account and the context around them, specifically how they're being received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we've permanently suspended his account. In the context of the events this past week. The two tweets they literally list here are on January 8th, President Trump tweeted, the 75 million great American people who voted for me, America first, make America great again. We have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. Shortly thereafter, the president tweeted, to all of those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Twitter is citing those two specific tweets as to the reason why they've banned him, because citing some very vague context thing that he's inciting violence to it. Why? Let me finish my point. Why this makes no sense is because Jimmy Dore pointed this out, and this is where I got this from. When Joe Biden found out Trump said he's not coming to the inauguration, Joe Biden says, you know what, I agree with that. It's one thing me and him agree with. He should not come to the inauguration. So, Twitter is telling you that one of the two reasons why they had to ban him is because he said he's not coming to the inauguration. Joe Biden said, good, he shouldn't come to the inauguration. So should we also ban Joe Biden for for being divisive or spreading some sort of rhetoric? Joe Biden agrees that he shouldn't come to the inauguration. How is that a bannable offense permanently?
So can you give me that real quick?
Let me piss real quick.
Let him.
Let me piss real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Go on, you
Let me read that real quick. We're gonna take a quick second. I would like to read something because there's a line in there that I heard.
Which part?
Where did you start?
I mean, at the beginning, you want to talk about what this is. This is Twitter's entire explanation.
Where's Twitter's fucking reasoning?
Right here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Twitter says, what does that sentence say?
You want me to read?
Yeah.
I'll
Read the first paragraph. Just the first paragraph.
After a close review of recent tweets from Donald Trump's account and the context around them, specifically how they are being received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Go
Okay.
ahead, because I also want to make another point.
Now, the key words there: received and interpreted.
Who received and interpreted these?
Think Twitter
Right.
received and interpreted this. This is my problem I have with what's going on, because a company like Twitter and a company like Facebook is going to erase you off the internet because you didn't vote the way I did. I've always, listen, as much of a Trump supporter as I am, as much of a Republican as I am, with my weird views and my weird reasoning, conspiracy theories or not, I have always agreed we have a two-party system for a fucking reason. Not everybody is going to get what they want 100% of the time. We sat through Obama for 8 years. We didn't get what we wanted. We sat through Bush for 8 years. Not everybody got what they wanted. Bottom fucking line.
Nobody will
received
ever get
and interpreted. The people who are interpreting this voted differently than me. Voted differently than the people who stormed the Capitol. Whether that was a false flag or not, the reason those people were in D.C. were for a different reason than the people who interpreted this tweet that fucking decided the president of the United States should be censored.
And when you think about it, Joe Biden interpreted that second tweet differently.
The same way.
No. He interpreted it differently
than Twitter did. Yes.
Twitter is citing that second tweet of "I'm not coming to the inauguration"
as a good thing,
as Trump inciting some sort of violence. Joe Biden saying, "Good, don't come. I don't want you to come."
Yeah.
Right. So,
which I'm fine with. The way things have gone down. Biden and Trump shouldn't be in the same room. Probably.
They probably no. They should be in the same room.
It'd be great TV. But
they should.
Well, yes, for the American people,
yeah, and working out differences and putting our best foot forward.
But this is my problem with all of this. Where does Twatter Jack and Zuck the fucking cuck get the goddamn authority to kill an entire political party?
Well, they're a private company, right? So they could do whatever they want.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're a private company. You know what? We have several friends. We have two close friends who fucking own restaurants, and their family's fucking future depends on these restaurants. And one of our own friends' fucking restaurant has already closed during the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. Their private companies open back up. Open your restaurant, open your gym, do whatever the fuck you want, because Twitter and Facebook could do whatever the fuck they want.
People are only saying they're private companies, they could do whatever they want, because at the moment, those private companies are reinforcing their political belief.
Yeah, they're on the right side of the agenda. Right. That's the problem.
At the moment.
But, I saw something today that made so much sense. Okay, let's take 11 boxes, you line them up, right? You have the far right and you have the far left. Twitter comes in and they go, oh, we're going to censor the far right. That's box number 11, right? Now you go down to the next level. The far right just became box number 10.
Yes.
We're going to censor that. Now the far right just became box number 9. Before you know it, the far right is going to be box number 4, number 3. And there's going to be more people on the far left, or you're already, after you pass box number 5, you're already getting into the people kind of like me who socially is liberal, but, financially and globally is conservative and stuff like that, where where it's only a matter of time before your liberal beliefs or your perspective becomes the far right perspective. Right. You can't just cut off one subsection of a political party and then think the next subsection of that far part of it is going to be safe. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing on the far left side. Those radical progressives, Joe Biden don't even want to fucking hear them. Sooner or later, they're just going to close in on each other, and everybody's going to be censored except for if you fall completely in line, and that's communism.
With whatever the social media opinion happens to be at that day, but it could change tomorrow as well.
Yes, that's the fucking problem. Because the problem with Twitter, with Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, is right now they have control over what is put out there based on you didn't vote the way I did.
You know what's interesting? I was talking to my grandfather, and he watches Fox News. He actually doesn't watch Hannity or Carlson. He only watches Fox News. But
which is probably even harder.
Yeah. I was telling him. I said, look, Grandpa, do we want government to set the precedent of being able to control what a private company does? Because that is something that I worry about when it comes to managing this issue. Because I mean, all three of us agree that with Twitter and Facebook, that's fuckery. It's bullshit. Yeah. That's just that's grade A.
I don't want to interrupt you, but
I'm gonna.
Yes, I am. That's what I do.
He's good at that. Yeah.
Have you watched the show before?
Yeah.
The thing that really fucking grinds my gears is they demanded Trump say something on the 6th to end the violence. Trump produced this video. Go home. Yes, he gaslighted. But you know what? There's been so much gaslighting from both sides anymore. I don't want to hear anything about gaslighting anymore. Okay? Both sides are completely guilty of it to the point that it almost fucking negates each other. Who's gaslighting what? The basics of this is Trump put out a video saying, go home. Stop this. We are a country of law and order. I don't remember the exact words. They deleted and scrubbed that video. He did what you asked him to do, and we banned him for it. You know what I mean?
Well, they banned him for these two tweets specifically. But yes,
but that was the beginning of it. The original suspension, right. When I got to your house, the last podcast.
He didn't give the perfect statement, which he
did.
But
there would have never... Nancy Pelosi could have handwritten a fucking statement for him to read, and he could have read it, and they would have fucking done the same thing.
The perception would have never been he gave the right statement, but I would have accepted a right statement. I don't think the statement he gave was good enough.
It don't matter to me anymore.
I know, but he also said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he also said he also kept going, the election, we lost the election, it was fraudulent or whatever, but at the same time, go home.
Yes, you're right.
So, I mean, he was kind of like
You're right. But see, the gaslight, that was gaslighting, right. That he did not need to say.
Well, if I'm being honest, none of this matters. It's whether or not that he has legal precedent for inciting violence. Yeah. Because that's what they're using for impeachment.
Yeah.
So, and Jonathan Turley took a look at it. Dershowitz took a look. Not that I trust Dershowitz. Dershowitz is kind of a fuck. The district attorney for D.C. took a look at it and said that nothing in his speech is legally inciting violence. So this impeachment thing is kind of, what are you going to do?
It's not going to go.
What's theatrics? It's political.
It's drama club because.
Well, and because they.
And I'm sorry to cut you off before. I hope you remember your.
Oh,
yeah,
statement. I do. So the point that I was going to make, I was talking to my grandfather because it was very interesting, and I didn't know it, and I don't think a lot of people do. Is, I was saying if you want to set this precedent where government can come in and control what a private company does, and he said, Zach, that's already happened. And I went, well, not on this scale. And he went, yeah, on this scale. Have you ever heard of Ma Bell? And I went, no, I have not heard of Ma Bell. I'm 24, Grandpa. I
forget how young you are.
I speak horrendously to my grandfather. I said, "Fucking no, you old little fuck." He goes, but it was a telephone operator that controlled, the overwhelming majority of of calls in
Okay.
America, because they used to call and then they would connect me to this line and then they
pre-internet,
right,
pre-cell
right,
phones.
pre towers, pre everything, and so you call the operator, they say connect me to this, and then they plug this.
Red
in,
Dead
they do-
Redemption shit.
Yeah, very old. Well, what happened was Ma Bell controlled the overwhelming majority of calls, so they started price gouging. Okay, the government stepped in and broke them up. So this is something like the government stepping in and breaking up what would be considered a company that has the behavior of a monopoly or has
Right.
the opportunity to be a monopoly. It's not unprecedented in American history for the government to step in and break up a company that takes advantage of
Right.
their power that they have in a certain economic sector. And just to be clear, I don't even know if that's the right thing to do. I get very antsy when it comes to giving the government power, because most of the time when you give government
Yeah, I
power,
agree
they
with
abuse
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't even know, but I'm saying the people who
But-
are saying this is unprecedented, this has happened before.
But now, so you are 100%. The government has stepped in to break up monopolies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after the Industrial Revolution, that's when we stopped monopolies because Ford was starting to become a monopoly or something like
We
that.
ain't stop nothing, buddy.
No?
There's plenty of
Okay.
monopoly.
Sorry, say it again?
Yes, theoretically.
No.
maybe
Oh,
a
and just
few.
to be clear, the whole situation with Ma Bell, it worked.
Right, because they
Again,
broke them up.
Yeah.
They broke them
Let me-
up.
let me make-
Again,
But
I
hold
don't
on, hold
know,
on.
though. I
so
don't. I
so
don't-
here is the 2021 problem. Facebook and Twitter 110% are a monopoly. The only reason the government is not stepping in to break them up is because the government is involved in creating this brand new monopoly and they get money from it.
Well,
Okay.
they're wielding it as a weapon.
Yes, yes.
to push their agenda.
Right, but
and punish political dissidents.
if you don't think fucking Twatter Jack sat down with some representative of some state or some CIA figure and was like, we'll share the money and you'll have all this power and we'll have all this money, you're out of your mind. It's 100% happened. We've literally watched Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey lie and commit perjury. They've been dragged into Congress to answer questions dozens of times in the past 2 years. So they are a monopoly, and so and this is, I could prove that they're a monopoly. Twitter has their guidelines. They say you don't like it, go to another platform, and you could run wild there. So then Parler gets created. Then Amazon and Apple and Google don't allow you to download.
I saw you guys
Parler.
are on Gab. Good move.
Yeah.
Good move.
Yeah, and so now, no longer can you. If you were to go on your phone right now, whether you have an Android or an Apple, you can't download
Don't
Parler.
fucking insult me. I have an iPhone.
That's fine.
I don't. I get phones made from fucking Guatemalan Vietnamese children.
And
Children who are darker than me. Thank you.
you look at this, and you fucking. So now there's no platform to download this free speech app on. It's getting to the point that now you need to create a new internet so we could
Yeah.
tweet.
Let me chime in here. To back up your point, you mean the justification between Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Google, Amazon to removing Parler is, well, they don't have a moderation policy, so we're not going to support you. We're not going to allow your product to be on our app store, and we're going to pull your servers because you don't have a moderation policy, and because you don't have a moderation policy, your app is promoting violence. You think they really give a fuck about that? You think that Facebook, etc., all the tech companies really care about that? No. The reason why they did that is because, as you're saying, they have control of that
Monopoly.
marketplace. So what they did was, we could just crush this little tiny competitor here. We could use the justification of racism and can it be a monopoly if it is free to consumers? It's not free because they're taking our data and selling it.
Well, and
And there's advertising.
not only that, but they're also depriving consumers of options by buying other companies out
Yeah.
before they have an
Right.
opportunity to get
Yeah.
big.
There's no chance right now in the market if we were to make Doomstagram, okay, a free speech
yeah.
fucking app.
It's just
where-
an app where you can go see
Everything would be spelled wrong.
24-year-old girls.
Yes, that's
get
fine.
throat fucked.
Yeah, and throat fucking and misspellings. If that's your fucking gig, we could not get it off the ground.
Throat fucking's in cursive. It's transcriptions of throat fucking.
Yeah,
We
you
couldn't
in
get it
old
off the
English
ground.
cursive.
You couldn't compete because
Yes.
of the monopoly
Yeah.
that the other social media giants
and
have.
on top of it, if let's say Gab over the next, let's say this is the course we continue on, right? Now Gab has its what's the special thing about Gab? Why they can't be censored?
Well, they're their own. They're their own website. They're not even on like
Okay.
an app
They're
store.
not,
Okay.
and they also apparently
Okay.
like they own their own servers. They're not using Amazon
Right.
web
Okay.
hosting
Okay.
service.
So I have 2 points here now. So now let's say Gab really takes off, and they're a 20-30 billion dollar industry right now. It would take nothing for Twitter or Facebook to attempt to buy them, so you're now part of us.
Right.
You're so big, you're so powerful, become part of
It's
our
true.
group.
But
But
hopefully the owner's principled enough
Yeah.
to not sell.
right,
Right. Well, and that's to his point because he just made it very clear that it falls on the responsibility of the consumer. If you're sick of Twitter having this much power, sorry, stop using it.
yeah.
If
But-
you're sick of whatever it may be, Facebook, whether you're sick of the mainstream media, whatever, if you're sick of it, there's two ways to do it. You can get the government involved, or consumers can just stop watching it till the ratings plummet and there's
Well, that's
no more
what's happening with
sponsorships
Twitter.
and it goes out of business. But that falls on the responsibility of the consumers.
It does, but at the same time, I want to make a point to what you were talking about with the grandpa before, and he's saying that is it the role of government to get involved and to break up the Bell Company?
Yeah.
Yes.
Technically, yes, it is, right? Because the government, the existence of the government, right, in America is to protect the interests of the people. So when something like a private corporation or whatever is doing something that's detrimental to the well-being of the people, it is the government's responsibility to protect the people. That is why we have a government,
Yeah.
right? So
Right, yeah.
it is the government's responsibility to break up a monopoly. Why? Because monopoly is controlling the marketplace and charging people too much, or
So how do
controlling
you
influence.
how do you set that precedent without how do you do that without how do you do that with also guaranteeing the fact that power that the government has won't be abused in the future and won't trickle down to smaller businesses?
That's the problem.
Because that same power could be used to shut small businesses down
Yes.
for the benefit of large businesses.
So right
Yeah, that's
now,
true.
so we've been
Not saying you're wrong, by the way. I'm just
No, I understand that.
it's fucking
So-
complex.
So we've been in agreement that the whole COVID pandemic has been a war on small business, right? Living in New York, we are right now watching big corporation buy its first state, and the first state it's buying is either California or New York. You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time before big business owns its own state. Now we have other big businesses that have more power than the president. Okay? So, you're saying, where does it come in? And you said it's, they come in when they have the people's interest. The problem right now is what I was saying before. Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Biden have the same views. So neither side see there's a fucking problem. That's why Trump hates, Section 203 and wants to veto it, because it gives social media the power to run around scot-free, where China could serve us misinformation and nobody could get in trouble for it. But Trump, who will tell you, fine, he's gaslighting, but Trump will tell you, go home, respect law and order, be peaceful, you're deleted, fuck you.
Our system doesn't represent the people's best
Well,
interest, right?
And
They
that's why
represent-
there's riots.
Right.
Well, that's why there needs to.
Here's the thing.
Say
I don't
that.
even know if the first step is to incite any type of even protests. The first step in handling this is getting into office more technologically literate politicians.
Vote out the dinosaurs.
If you watched the Zuckerberg hearing or the
They've both committed perjury and got off scot-free.
Well, but part of that is because our politicians don't know how to adequately hold them responsible on a line of questioning because they don't really know what they're talking about.
They don't even know.
Here's
how
one thing
Facebook
that I
works.
like about Andrew Yang. I don't think he's got his policies right. I don't know. But at least he knows what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to technology and big tech and software development and these multi national platforms that are hosting, I don't know, billions of people.
Yeah.
So
I'd say half of the world's population.
So,
on
I
social
mean,
media.
there's
you know,
nobody.
do I think that-
listen, there's nobody on the planet who doesn't know about Twitter.
But
You
it's
know what
not
I mean?
no. But most people on the planet don't know how Twitter works.
Yes.
No, that's fine.
Behind the
They-
scenes.
yeah.
But that's the thing. We need politicians to understand
Yes.
how software
It's their
programs
responsibility
works.
to understand.
I
what
don't-
you say.
We are in. Listen, you know, from when our forefathers signed the Declaration of Independence and stuff like that.
Wait, who?
Our forefathers, Thor and
Thor
Odin.
fathers, our Thor fathers, yeah, Odin and all them. When you know,
The old
Yeah.
fathers. The old
anyway,
fathers.
when
When Jeffrey Epstein signed the Declaration of Independence.
1776 is way different from 2021.
Yes.
And it's been technically it's been exploited. It really has, because this social media, we never saw it coming. It started with MySpace, and we had, a little bit of music and your top 10 friends, and now Facebook literally can control the fucking world.
Yeah, the psychology of the world. I say. What do you mean it's been exploited? What's been exploited regarding 1776?
Okay, so when we were talking, when it was signed in, the Constitution was created. Free speech was, you could go and talk in your city hall, and you could voice your opinions that I don't like the fucking way you're running our state. You're doing a bad job. Fix it. There's 500,000 people behind me who agree you suck at running the state. If you don't fix it, we're going to vote someone else in, and our elected official, because me and 499,000 other people chose this new person to push our agenda through and see the state is ran in our vision. Now with social media, we're all connected. We've all said social media is a double-edged sword. It's fucked a lot of politicians. It's helped a lot of politicians. Right now with social media, the best part of it is when someone like Kamala Harris talks about how she's done A, B, and C, we could look back at social media and be like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You did the exact opposite.
A record of accountability.
Yes, there's a record of accountability. That's perfectly put. But now social media has gone to a point where it could sway an election. No one ever saw it. When Tom made MySpace, and I really think we're going to end up all back on MySpace, because I really think there's going to be serious repercussions. If this all falls apart, I really think there's going to be some serious repercussions for major social media platforms. But when Tom made MySpace, it was to fucking, match with friends. And when Facebook was created, it was about what girl is hot and what girl is not.
College, yeah.
Yeah, it was about.
I don't think
lifelong.
But fine. But now where it is,
society altering
yes,
possibilities.
Facebook can determine who the next president is. Facebook can determine what is. Mark Zuckerberg banned Trump and his family because he declared Mark Zuckerberg, who has no official power whatsoever other than he has mad bank, that January 6th was an emergency, and he felt the responsibility to change the terms and agreements of Facebook so that it banned Trump.
So
who gives you that right?
So would we all agree that the social media platforms, there should be like a reclassification of what is considered protected under the First Amendment?
Yeah.
And there's terms of service should have to abide by the First Amendment. Not that they can make their own rules, like they can't just. They can make money.
They can't just choose, yeah.
They have to still abide by. This is not a rule right now.
Right.
We're following the every liberal person's defense of they're a private company and they could do whatever they want. Yes, technically they can.
But they've taken on a new. They've taken on
because
a
of their
responsibility
importance.
of society
because of how important they are in society.
Well, it's not even the importance. It's what domain they've crossed over into. So obviously they've crossed over into having influence in major political events.
Right.
Does that mean now that they are somewhat a governmental body?
No. Well, yes, you're right. You're right. You're right. I didn't mean to say no, but you're right. I just didn't agree with that.
We can go to this abstract type of way of thinking where we go, well, we understand that this is a private company, but if it has this much sway in government and politics, at what point does it become a political entity?
Yeah.
And when it does become a political entity, how much power does our government have over it? Because just to be clear, if something's a purely political entity, it has to follow political rules.
Thank you.
So that's
here's the thing. You know, President Trump. It's January 12th, so Trump is still our president. Spoke today. Not a single media MSM, source. I was on Fox and CNN at the same time. Neither of them said that Trump spoke in Texas today.
Yeah.
I had to go on a fringe network and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, he's been removed.
Yes.
Totally.
That would have been the perfect time for him to go, yeah, I love feet.
Just really get crazy with it.
Yeah.
And
I love toenail clippings and I put them a little bit up into my dick hole.
Right now, these social media companies have such sway over society that they have not only silenced but strangled the Republican Party. This cannot be stood for. You think what happened in the Capitol was bad. If you literally try to silence an entire... There's a two-party political system for a reason. Once you silence an entire one, it doesn't prove your point of view to be correct. It just proves that you don't want the message of your opponent to be spread out there. It's gotten too far. There needs to be regulations if social media is going to be so fucking important in our society, which it already is. Listen, we are on social media right now. The three of us right here are trying to carve out some future for ourselves, whether it is money, whether it is fame, or whether it is just getting our message across. Right now, the three of us are trying to carve out our own stance on social media to get our message out there. But just because Twitter Jack doesn't like me, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could just wipe us off the face of the earth. Yeah. Listen, everybody always said, and they always said, if the First Amendment applies to Facebook, then the Second Amendment applies to AR-15s. You know what I'm saying? When the Constitution was created, all we had was, mail and the news, and not even a full-blown, U.S. Postal Service at that time in 1776 or whatever. But if you could write, if writing down what you want is free speech, if getting up on a soapbox and speaking in Times Square is free speech, and saying what you want on social media is free speech, then a musket is controlled under the Second Amendment, the same thing as a fully automatic AK-47 is controlled under the Second Amendment. If we're going to change that now, there's going to be a fucking problem.
This goes back to what you were saying before also. You said back in the day, people would line up at the town hall and voice their complaints, right? Well, our town hall now in the 21st century, in 2021, is Facebook, Twitter, social media. That is our town hall. I understand that a private company facilitates this, but they have facilitated to the point where they are reaching...
controlling it.
...half of the population of planet Earth, right? So we need to take a step back and understand that they're not necessarily just a private company. I'm not saying they can't make money off of being Facebook. Yeah. They can, but their role in society is to be the town square, right, where people could share ideas. You cannot pick and choose which ideas are going to be shared or not.
The real problem is the silencing. If you want to be a private company, fine. But so Facebook and Twitter, condemned the MAGA movement, silenced Trump. Fine. You don't like the way Twitter and Facebook is ran, you have Gab and Parler. But now Amazon and Google and Apple have shut down Parler. We are now at a point where Republicans either die or make a new, think of how crazy this is, a new form of internet so there could be a Republican voice.
Mm-hmm. That also is going to just cause people to be in more of like an echo chamber. Then it's only going to be Republicans.
Because then the new
Republican
internet, the two dividing internets are going to be all left wing and all right wing.
It's going to radicalize people
and
further.
the far left and the far right are going to have the loudest voices because they're crazy. And nothing is going to make sense. It's going to be fucking guns and religion and fucking, gays and flowers for nobody's going to make sense of anything, and we're not going to get anything accomplished, and we're just going to be further divided. That's why these monopolies need to be reined in the worst way possible.
You know what's
you're chomping at the
yeah
bit.
no it's,
Yeah, go for it, go crazy.
It's weird because the same point that you just made, they said that look, these are massive corporations that have influence on billions
That have
of people.
more power than the president.
Exactly. So they use that same argument as the reason why they're censoring Donald Trump. They said, look, we are a massive company that reach billions of people. We feel it's our responsibility to make sure that what we're doing is benefiting society or benefiting the flow of information. So the same argument that you just made, and I understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is exactly right. It's weird how they twisted those words and used that exact argument that we are so big and we are so influential and we are spreading so much information that they now have the right to censor.
And this is where I bring my problem in.
Which started on Facebook. It was Zuckerberg who said that
Yeah.
we realized it was like the misinformation shit. It started with Pizzagate. That's
Yeah.
when it started to
Oh,
domino.
shocking. Pizzagate, where it fucking, incorporates Bill Clinton and all, these left fucking mega fucking,
Elephantis and-
all these establishment figures. That
Marina Abramovich.
But so what I just wrote down here is people need to wake up because Twitter.
You have such a fuck.
No, I'm doing it quickly. I'm doing it quickly.
Jesus Christ.
When I want to write, I could write, but when I do these quick notes, they're
I feel
going
like
to be
my aunt
garbage.
wrote that.
The real scary part right now is that there is people cheering on Twitter,
Yeah.
saying that you guys are so big, you should determine what can be heard. But the uneducation of people, which we always talk about, the death of the Senate will be met with thunderous applause,
Pat,
and they
Pat
don't.
May said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't even understand what they just voted for.
Yeah.
Big corporation does not have your best interest at heart. I don't care that Twitter aligns with your policy.
Right
You
now,
should,
at
yes,
this point in time.
you should worry. I want a little bit more of that. You should worry that Twitter might, apply to your policy right now, but one day it's not. That's going to be the real interest. The real interesting part.
I've been making the point. Have you heard of Jimmy Dore's Force the Vote campaign?
Great idea.
I've heard of Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, Jimmy-
And he was the one that got in trouble because he said something about AOC.
Aha! See, you think he said something mean about AOC?
Yeah, I
Because that's the way it's
didn't
been
follow
spun.
it. Like everything that happens with AOC, I can't because I'm so confused in those situations where I'm like, I hate your politics, but
I just
God,
don't
fuck,
understand
I'm
why
so
she
bad.
gets so much power.
Because she's fucking hot.
It's
She's
gotta be.
so fucking hot.
It's
Like,
gotta-
let's not
If
lie
she
to
had an
ourselves.
only-
She's fucking hot.
How much would you pay for her OnlyFans? 30, 40, $50?
I'd give up my right to freedom of speech. I would.
Unfit Statesman gets taken off of fucking YouTube. You get her OnlyFans for free.
I'll be a leftist shill if she wants me to be.
The idea of Force the Vote is Jimmy Dore wants the squad, the progressives, to force a vote on Medicare for all, with the idea that if we're not going to pass Medicare for all and health care for everybody in the midst of a pandemic, when are the establishment Democrats ever going to bring this to the table? And his idea...
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the beginning of that?
The idea is, if we are ever going to
Oh, the force to vote. Never mind. I remember.
This
Yes,
is something
okay.
you don't agree with. You don't like Medicare for all, right? But the idea is, if we're ever going to have Medicare for all, when are we going to get it? Now is the time to have it, right? So his idea is the Squad, Bernie, etc., should withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House until she agrees to bring forth a vote for Medicare for all, which she won't, right?
See, I agree with this ideology.
You don't
My
agree
problem
with
is,
the issue.
well, no, the only reason why I don't agree with the issue is because we don't have people that we can trust with this type of power.
Let's not get into it, right? Let me finish my point. So, Jimmy Dore had put pressure on AOC. You should not vote for Nancy until she agrees to bring this forward. AOC, acts funny about it and is like, well, that's not the way we get things done here, etc., etc. Jimmy Dore is trying to make the point. What do you mean? Like, we want this. We're trying to put pressure on you guys to get it done. And yes, he's a little bit aggressive of it, but he's not calling for AOC to be hung or anything like that. But because he was aggressive, trying to put pressure on it, AOC seemed offended and was a bit violent.
Didn't
right?
she say something about how it was misogynistic attacks?
Right. You see what I mean? But how long until let's just use it, an AOC turns this gun of Twitter and censorship at Jimmy Dore and people asking for Medicare for all, and says, "Look, he's being violent about his demands. We need to censor him and erase it." Now we're talking about something that's super liberal, right? Medicare for all
That's
because you get a little bit annoyed and you get like you want to demand something of your politicians. I'm going to now turn. I could possibly theoretically turn social media at you and banish you.
Well, what you're saying already happened. There's an account, I think it's called the Red Scare.
Yes, I've heard of this.
That got banned.
Yes.
And so it's weird because all of these people on the left thought, that these social media accounts and everything, they were on their side, right? All the socialist policies that they want to see enacted. Jack was on. No, they're not.
No,
they're establishment people.
This is what I said earlier. They don't have your best interest.
They have no principles. They're following a woke policy. Because the woke policy is a very easy thing to follow, and if you follow it, you can get away with a bunch of shit.
Yes, because it doesn't matter as long as your heart's in the right place. It doesn't matter what you do. This is leading.
You can run a faggot parade down the fucking Fifth Avenue, and it's gonna
where it's a meat grinder at the end of them, but you fucking celebrated their sexuality.
It's like LGBTQ pride sponsored by Goldman Sachs, and you're like, that's weird.
Yeah, but this is all leading to politics in power. We elect these officials, and now they've gained so much power that they are the ones controlling the power. So you're talking about how this force to vote, they could turn the Twitter guns on the force to vote stuff. Like, I want everybody to fucking realize that the Democrats have been dragging their feet on Medicare for all. The Democrats have been dragging their feet on several huge fucking topics, right? In the past 4 years, in the past 8 years, in the past 10 years, they've been dragging their feet on a ton of different topics. But when it came down to impeaching Trump, articles of impeachment 2 days later.
Yeah.
We're good. We're good to go. Listen, Joe Biden is going to enter this fucking White House as a Democrat, and that's fine because we have a two-party system as long as Facebook and Twitter does not kill the Republican Party. We have a two-party system. The Democrats have dragged their feet for decades on certain fucking social issues. But when it comes to fucking knocking someone out they don't like, I'm looking directly in the camera for this. They are the most efficient killing machine on the face of the planet. They could get things done in 48 hours. So if you don't think the Democrats can get Medicare for all done within a month, you're only fooling yourself.
Right. Well,
you are a stupid sheep, and you don't understand what's going on.
Especially now when they have the executive branch, they have the House, they have the Senate.
Yes,
and if they do pack the courts, they'll have the
Supreme Court as well. Right. If Democrats... So this is the scary part of where we might be going into America, but right now, if the Democrats are the party of peace, if the Democrats are the party of the future, whatever you want to call them, if they're the good guys or not, right now, in a few days, the Democrats will have the power to pass everything they said they could not pass. There is absolutely zero. This is coming from a Trump-supporting Republican. There is
Racist, homophobic, sexist piece of shit.
I ain't
If might
homophobic.
add.
I ain't homophobic. Zero reason why.
Can I already tell you the reason they've already crafted as to why they won't be able to
Because
pass such
the
things?
riot.
No, I already know the reason.
Go for
Because,
it.
You know,
Say it to them. Say it to them.
If everybody knows Joe Manchin, right? He's a Pennsylvania Democrat. He has come out. He's a Democrat, but he's like a Republican almost, right? So he has come out against the 2000 stimulus. He comes out against a lot of these super progressive liberal ideas like Medicare for all and etc. That's it. That's all they need. They right now with the way the breakdown of the Senate etc. goes, if one Democrat goes against, you know, like they need to all vote one way.
Forget the majority. We need
They
everyone.
They can now use Manchin as the excuse of, well, you know, he's not going to support it, so we can't get it done. Just not, and they could all vote, you know, 49, you know, and one. And that one will break the tie. All the Republicans can vote the other way, and they have their scapegoat. We still couldn't get it done because Manchin doesn't agree with it. So
this is the problem with.
I'm saying they've already set it up. Like their excuse has been set up already.
Yeah, this is also
Have fun, conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, this leads into the mainstream media. You know, they've demonized Trump for years, but they've never really dived into why dove into why. Dove this fucking, you know, whiskey barrel fucking bourbon's kind of screwing me up.
Taking his toll on Cap.
But
they've never divin.
But anyway, they never asked the question, why did 75 million people gravitate towards Trump in the past 4 years? And it's not because it's not because they're stupid. It's not because, you know, any reason the mainstream media will paint it. It's because he's not establishment. It is because he is in your face. It is because he doesn't have the political vocabulary that the most politics do have. He will tell you off. He will tell you how it is, whether it hurts you or not. So they never looked into this. But at the same time, now we're all banking on Joe Biden. He ain't going to do shit for anyone.
And a lot of people are spinning, you know, the Trump supporters. Well, they're white nationalists.
Domestic terrorists,
they're racist. How, you know, I sit across from you for every episode, and I try and listen to why you like Trump. I don't like Trump, right? And you don't like him because you're a white nationalist or you're a bigot or you're racist or anything. You like him because you hate the way the government has operated for years.
Yeah.
And you thought that this guy was going to come in and
change
throw
it
a
all.
wrench.
Yeah.
I remember you said years ago, he's throwing a wrench into the system or something like that. Not because he's a racist or whatever, even if he might be. I'm going to say that probably most Trump supporters think the same way you think, but there definitely are probably racist ones, of course. There's racist people.
But
that's not the majority of the people.
Well, and you know the same reason that you said why so many people gravitated toward Trump. It's why so many Republicans gravitated toward Biden. It's because he is establishment, and they needed somebody to bring.
They need to be somebody safe.
Right. So that's why you have.
They're on the outskirts.
That's why you have McConnell coming out now and saying, you know, I'm glad that they're bringing up this impeachment thing. Was because this is all of this.
You know, Mitch McConnell's wife quit.
She was Secretary of
I was hoping you were going to
Transportation.
get more into Mitch McConnell because you have the dirt on.
Mitch McConnell's a piece of shit. His wife Elaine Chao, her father is
CCP.
Her father is the CEO of something called the Foremost Maritime Group, which is a shipping company that does the overwhelming majority of their business with the China State Shipbuilding Company, and the China State Shipbuilding Company's sort of, you know, modus operandi and their what?
No, that camera's giving us problems before, so we're making sure it's still recording.
As long as the red light is on, it's on.
But their mission statement is to supplement the Chinese military. Okay, so we know that Elaine Chao, Mitch McConnell's wife's father, is doing business with a company that's supplementing the Chinese military. We know that Angela Chao, Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law, is sitting on the board, or at least at one time, sat on the board of the Bank of China. You know that he's getting a massive amount of money from the Chinese military-industrial complex. And so, people who, you can sit there and say Republicans go, well, how Biden's foreign policy on China, which was horrible. He let China encroach on the South China Sea. Why? Because Hunter Biden had a joint venture with the CCP and the Bank of China with Rosemont Seneca. Yes. But Mitch McConnell, he is fine with that too.
Right.
He's establishment. There's establishment members on both sides.
So that's the thing. So you're saying the same thing. Why people and you and I kind of find ourselves in the same boat where we wouldn't consider ourselves Republicans, but we oftentimes find ourselves defending Trump.
Yeah.
The same reason.
The reason for defending Trump.
It's not because we're Republicans. It's because we're anti-establishment.
Yes.
That's why.
Yes.
I'm also anti-hypocrisy, and I
Yes.
feel like I've spent most of my time calling out hypocrisy.
I'm also anti-Jew.
When you do that,
Nazi.
if you call out any hypocrisy, I've come to learn you're automatically now a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
People don't even know anything about you, but they just
It's the
label you something
uneducation.
because you said something anti. Democrat or
Listen,
whatever.
we follow the PSA report with Nick, and you've seen Nick's Facebook. You've seen Nick's Facebook, and you've seen his comments.
Of course, yeah.
This is a professor at a university for political science.
Everything he says is always very, very well thought out.
If
smart.
he says it, it's true. He doesn't go on the fringe. He doesn't care about conspiracies.
We're non-experts. He's an actual
Yes.
expert. Yeah.
Linwood could say he has evidence to crack in this, QAnon that, blah, blah, blah. Linwood is just speaking out of his ass. If Nick is saying something, it's the real deal. If Nick says, no, politics and government doesn't work this way, I don't know. He has a master's degree in it. Maybe he might know. And we watch him fight people every week, and it just gets to a point where we just can't talk to you people. No, it doesn't work this way.
You have to talk to.
Yeah.
You have
Well,
to talk
and that's another problem too. Is the ability to sit and have a conversation with somebody you disagree with has completely dissolved.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Two Doom Men podcast.
Right. Welcome to
Why
the
did
Two-
we start?
Exactly. Well, but that is
Goodbye, America.
that's probably the worst. I mean, obviously there's a large fissure politically, and it's growing, but also the inability to just hear something that you disagree with and react in a logical way has also dissolved, and that has made things a hell of a lot worse. Because
we're getting sent back to the Stone Age.
Well, just to be clear, the fissure was always there. Yeah. It might be a little bit wider now than it was before, but now people feel they have the right to get emotional and discount somebody as an immoral person because they've coupled politics with morality.
Yeah.
Now,
And how woke you are.
Now,
That's a good point.
How you think politically is who you are as a person.
Right.
So now we're playing a different game here. Now we're not talking about politics. Now we're talking about who are you as a person.
That's why I love my stance.
That's why Chris is you said you weren't a homophobe, but he is a racist and a anti-Semite. But this is so like you say, you support Trump. If you spend any time with you realize, okay, well, race is kind of the furthest thing from you have
to be in high school. For me, back in high school, I was the white boy in my group. You know what I mean? I had, you know what I'm saying? My group of friends now formulated for different reasons. I met Skaggs by a fluke because of my neighbor, and our group developed through these actions. But in high school, my two best friends were Filipino and Pakistani, and I love these guys more than anything. And even for another guy that was in our group, he was black. I would never trade these guys for anything. Yeah, for political reasons. Even if they told me, fuck you, I hate Trump, I'd be like, cool, I still love you, bro. You're one of my best friends from over 20 years ago. I could never let my political views determine, you're not, we've been friends for 15 years, but you voted for Biden, fuck off. Not a chance. We, in 2016, we butted heads several times over Bernie and Trump. Never changed anything. To be honest with you, it's gotten to a point where now my perspective is, if Trump fucking declassified everything and took the House down, I'd be shocked to see Bernie Sanders fucking arrested. I feel like I feel like he might have been paid off in 2016, but not in 2020. I feel like he just got generally fucked in 2020. You know, in the last election, like
he got, there was coordination against
yeah,
him.
and
Well, and not only that, I mean, overt. Like it was so obvious that everybody went, "Hey, what? Hey, what?"
in 2016, yeah.
No, 2020 though it was even more overt. than
Well,
it was in
2016, it came out that Donna Brazile gave Hillary Clinton the questions that they were going to be
Yes.
asked, or like it was
My-
Jake
my
Tapper
problem-
that gave like it was.
My
I mean,
problem-
It was so obvious that the DNC wanted Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
instead of Bernie. I'm surprised Bernie ran as a Democrat again.
Right.
What the
That is
fuck?
my biggest
He should have took
criticism.
my advice, run as a third-party
Dude.
candidate. He would have made it so much further. I'm sorry, but in 2016, in New York specifically, you were fucking there. Fucking in the primary, they threw out 250 fucking votes. They never said who they were for. 250,000 votes. I'm sorry.
Brooklyn, where Bernie's from.
Yeah. 250,000 votes. They threw them out. They never said who they were for. 100%. All 250,000 were for fucking Bernie. Okay. And then after Hillary became the Democratic nominee, Bernie ended up with a fucking Audi R8 Spider and a
That's
goddamn
not true.
beach.
That's not
He has a
true.
beach house and an
That's
Audi.
not
I'm
true.
sorry. I don't
That's
care.
not
That's
true.
fine. I don't care if
Fake
it's not
news.
true or not.
Fake
Sit
news.
down. Relax. This is where I
Wait,
bring
was
my,
that? Hold on, was that how? Because didn't he have a very successful book?
yeah. Well, that's how they pay people through book deals.
Chris
But-
is regurgitating the Republican propaganda.
That's
against
fine.
Bernie.
That's fine. But by the time 2020 rolled around, he should have been the nominee. I've always blamed everybody hated Trump because he won over Hillary. You should hate Hillary because she fucking gypped your guy's fucking dude out of, you know, getting the nomination. It should have been Bernie v. Trump.
Right.
And I say it to this day, it's 2021. Even back in 2016, I would have had more research to do if it was Bernie v. Trump. I would have had more research to do.
I understand what you're saying. That you would
Well,
have to
that's-
look into it more.
That
Make a
corroborates.
decision on who you're going to vote
Yeah,
for.
once it was Hillary Clinton, the decision was easy. I would never vote for that fucking satanic
Right. Well,
cunt.
because we found the same thing here: Trump versus Hillary, fringe versus establishment; Bernie versus Hillary, fringe versus establishment. That's why you find if you can get a Trump supporter and a Bernie supporter to sit in a room and just have a discussion, you'll find that they have a hell of a lot more in common than a Biden and Trump supporter, or even a Biden and Bernie supporter.
Yeah. I think Bernie supporters are way more woke than any Biden supporters, easily.
Well, woke in a good way.
Yes. Yeah.
right.
Woke in a way that America won't crumble.
As someone who considers himself a Bernie supporter, I'd say my biggest issue with Bernie is he's a cuck.
Yeah. He
he-
just sat back and watched
yeah.
himself get fucked.
He got
He's
fucked
Al Gore.
twice.
He's Al Gore.
He got fucked.
Al Gore put up a fight.
For as much as he spoke about like
He contested the election
He put up a slap fight. He didn't close his fist and fucking
more than Bernie did.
more than Bernie did. But don't. I mean, the hanging Chad thing was probably more obvious.
More than listen. That's my biggest. He wants to sit here and fight with me that Bernie didn't get paid off, right?
your examples are not correct, are not
That's-
true.
but
They're
that's
false.
fine.
Maybe he did. I'm not saying he didn't, but you're taking a picture of an old guy in an R8 and immediately determining that is Bernie Sanders.
I get that.
And then you're taking a family home on the lakeside in Vermont that he has always owned and somehow justifying that as he was paid off. If
Okay.
you
That's fine,
inherited a
whether you
family
like that or not. My problem with Bernie is he didn't fight back.
That's my
If he-
problem as well.
If he fought back, I would have backed that guy. If he fought back, this guy would have had so much more of my attention.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That is my problem with him as well. He, for all the talk of we're going to create a
That's why I
political
say he got
revolution,
paid off, because he didn't fight back.
Well, just because he didn't fight back doesn't mean he got paid off. He could have been he probably could have been fearful in the fact that the Democratic Party has so much control over him, and he didn't realize going into that election how much control.
he's been a senator for a very long
yes,
time.
but he
knows.
was an independent.
He knows.
He was an
He
independent,
knows.
and he never had to deal with the DNC in that fashion
Listen,
until he ran.
Listen,
for
we
president.
watched Tulsi Gabbard learn the hard way.
Yeah,
you
fucking
either
poor
you either fucking you
I
either,
liked her too. I
you
liked
you
her.
either bend the knee
Yeah.
or you get fucking steamrolled.
or you get accused of being
Yeah.
a Russian asset by
Asset,
Hillary
yeah.
Clinton.
All right. How do we want to finish this up, boys? What final questions? You got questions for us?
No, I think we should all pull our dicks out and see who can come first.
Not a bad idea. Yeah. Not gonna be much to see as we.
Yeah.
We
I don't know if the high def camera could get this.
About a while ago.
Yeah.
I want to.
It's just us sweating and frustrating.
I want to
yelling.
finish my point about,
All right.
about the
Finish this up
the
and let's
riots,
wrap it
right?
up.
To everybody who is saying the reason why the riots were racist, right? Because the police and the government didn't treat the BLM the same as the Trump riots, right? The upcoming
top.
we got breaking news.
Yeah, well, it's not too breaking, but they Pence is not going to consider.
The 25th Amendment.
No, yeah.
That was coming.
Nobody's going to invoke the 25th. And Nancy Pelosi doesn't have the power to invoke the 25th Amendment. This is more just this is the problem where social media runs rampant to the point that now the Speaker of the House can go rogue and say we're going to invoke the 25th Amendment when she has no power.
Yeah.
We even posted this on our Instagram
They
account.
don't actually have the authority to invoke it. Only Pence does.
This makes
So them passing a motion to invoke the 25th Amendment doesn't mean anything. It's just
makes America look insanely weak. Pence has put this to the side, and they're still talking about this. We're now at a point where, I will, just to not seem biased, both parties are talking out of their ass at what their party can do.
Yeah,
it really is. There is so much fake news that you should only watch Two Doomed Men. I'm sorry.
Look, let me finish my point. Every time I try and make this fucking point, you guys cut me off.
I'll shut up.
Going forward in the next couple of weeks, now the government is 100% prepared to deal with violence. The FBI has said that there's plots against all 50 states, capitals.
Bullshit.
Let me finish my point.
Go on.
Right? The National Guard has been mobilized. Our friend who was on this podcast before, a police officer, has been possibly going to be called into Washington to serve. An NYPD officer is going to be called in to serve in Washington, in the Capitol, on Inauguration Day, right? If this original treatment by the police and the National Guard, etc., was racist, wouldn't they not do anything again? Wouldn't they take no precautions again? Because they're not, though. They're now. There's now been a precedent set. Trump supporters were mad. They caused violence. Now they're ramping up.
Now the police are the best people in the world.
Shut up. Now they're ramping up their protection. They're ramping up their plan because a precedent has been set. The same way a precedent was set when the original Black Lives Matter Antifa riots in Minnesota took place, right? They were anticipating that this could happen again. The police are anticipating that this could happen again. They are prepared. So for everyone who is trying to make it out to be a race thing in the beginning, it's not. It's a simple unpreparedness thing. Yeah. And now they will be prepared for the coming days.
And to add to your point, which is the point that you made at the beginning of the show, the precedent that was set was also in the Antifa and BLM was specifically anti-police. It was defund the police. It was all cops are bastards.
Yes.
It was fuck the police.
How come the cop who shot that Air Force veteran, his name isn't posted all over the front page news?
Well, a lot of left-wing
because she was white and she's Republican. Nobody gave a shit.
Well, a lot of liberals and left-wing people were hailing that cop's decision to shoot them.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Well,
So my point here that I just wrote down is this 50 states armed militia type of deal that they're talking about is all bullshit. This is just another false flag event.
Maybe, but
I do know that right people on the right who are like radio hosts, like Mark Levin, and they're saying, "Listen, if you are listening to this and you're on the right and you're planning to go, don't go.
No,
you're gonna make the right look like assholes if you go."
I get you always criticize Q. All the Q pages are saying don't go to these events and all this stuff.
About that.
That's fine. I'm on them, so I kind of know, pal.
I'm Q. Yeah. I would know.
I am Q.
A lot of them, I've seen a lot of them are also posting weird videos of military actions taking place, not against people, but like of
there's a lot of weird shit going on,
things and stuff like that. Like, what are they trying to insinuate?
But anyway, my point is, if Facebook and Twitter has silenced the Republican Party, if Twitter has purged 70,000 anon fucking pages, how are we as conspiracy theorists, as extreme right-wing Republicans, how are we coming together to coordinate a 50-state siege on their capitals? It's almost impossible. Our communications are basically knocked out. We don't have Gab. We don't have Twitter.
Well, you have
All
Gab.
the,
Yeah, but
I'm
it
sorry.
sucks.
I'm sorry. We don't have Parlor.
Gab sucks. It's
Gab
so
is small.
fucking slow. I'm not saying they suck because of them. It's just that 80 million people joined in a
Joined
day,
in a
and
day,
they
they
weren't
weren't prepared.
prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he started a Gab page today. I haven't gotten on
I
it
don't know
yet.
how long did it take you. 4 hours?
I started a few days ago, but I haven't been
He
able
told
to,
me today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I
No, I know, yeah.
started it just to start it because
Yeah.
I
You need
disagree
we
with-
need our backups.
But
Yeah.
I didn't use it at all because of how overwhelmed it's been.
Yeah.
You can't actually use
So-
it. I tried searching you, and I couldn't even search
Yeah.
it.
So Gab is garbage. Parlor is down. Twitter and Facebook has silenced us. Do you really if it is this hard to be a Republican today,
Still
January?
Reddit. You still got Reddit.
Okay.
Reddit
okay.
won't censor. By the way, everybody forgot about Reddit.
Yeah, that's true.
Reddit.
I'll accept that.
And I've never been on
I
Reddit,
will
by the
accept
way.
that. I will accept that. But if 9 out of 10 of our communications have been banned and dropped, how are we coordinating a 50-state siege on Inauguration Day? It's fucking impossible. It's fake news. This is fear. This is absolute fear-mongering. Nobody, listen, I am furious. I am furious with Congress for several reasons. I would love to start breaking the windows of the Capitol and dragging politicians out solely on what they did in the stimulus bill, sending these hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign nations in support of the American people.
A better example would have been the wars that we sent people
That
into
too.
to
Right.
needlessly
That too.
die.
Needlessly
Yes,
die, right.
that too. But to tell me that 50 states of right-wing Trump supporters are going to gather with all of their guns and storm their Capitol buildings is bullshit to me. We have no communication process. Right now, today, this is a lull in the Republican Party. This is, right now, the Republican Party is being strangled into silence. I don't see how this is a credible source that we're going to rise up and murder everybody. I don't.
This is coming from the FBI. I watched their
The
agents.
FBI is just as good. They had Hunter Biden's fucking laptops for a year, and they did nothing on them.
Playing devil's advocate, this is where the information is coming from. I'm not saying if it's right or not.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying this threat of violent, like armed violence at all 50 state capitals is coming from the FBI. They're saying they have intelligence based on it.
Yeah. All right. So
Got to play a zone defense against
Final-
a 50-state siege.
I guess
final point means
Three safeties.
Final point, since you are our guest, Skaggs and I will not interrupt. We have a few.
I won't. I don't know about him.
Yeah, well, I will try. I'll try to be a good boy. We have a few days left. What are your predictions for the end of Trump's term to the inauguration? Are we going to have a revolution? Joe Biden, fucking communist China take over? What do you see playing out in the next several days?
Trump will go softly into that good night.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't feel that at all.
Yeah. Well, he has been depleted of any resource that would give him power. Twitter was his power tool.
At POTUS.
Yeah, but he's not using it like he was. He's not using it like
They
he
were-
was.
If he
Biden.
needs to, he would.
And
Maybe. That's my hopes.
at this point, he's lost too many people on the right to have any influence. The left did a really, I'm not advocating for what they did. What they did was dog
It's your
shit.
opinion.
But well, I'm not advocating for what they did. I don't think that what they did was intellectually sound, but they did a good job at making it seem like anybody who supported Trump also supported these riots at the Capitol. They did a good job, and they're good at that stuff. That's what they do.
100 people ruined it for everybody.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, but he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have his resources available that he used to have. The media now has literally every reason to not show him. His supporters will get angrier and angrier, I think, or at least the more radical sect of his supporters will get angrier and angrier.
That last box.
I don't think, if anything happens, it'll be a minor blip, maybe on Inauguration Day. I don't think we're going to see the 50-state Capitol siege.
Neither do I.
because I think most Trump supporters are like, and they just, I mean, they're not gonna do anything violent. They're not gonna do anything crazy. But I think what they're going to do is they're gonna wait and see. And I don't mean to make Trump supporters sound too logical, but they're gonna wait and see.
Welcome to our show.
They're gonna wait and go, well, if he starts doing communist shit, then we're really gonna get crazy. Because if they keep censoring us to the point where we can't have our voices heard, we're gonna get more violent than Antifa ever got. If not, if they start to be able to express themselves on Gab and Parler comes back, then what I think is going to happen is we're just going to see a simple flip of the House and the Senate for the last 2 years of Joe Biden's presidency. That's my best guess. Anything can happen. Maybe ideally somebody would fly a plane into Freedom Tower again and just start that over again. Let's go back into Iraq and see what happens. That's what I would prefer. Let's go back into Iraq.
I agree. I don't agree with that he's going to go out quietly, because I will never underestimate Trump. But what you said with...
He stands with his quads over his shins. You look at his posture, that fucking weird goose-looking like, very odd.
He stands like this.
Leaning forward, standing backwards.
Yeah, there's a meme of the whole Trump family standing. And it's like, why do they always look like they're practicing standing?
Yeah.
I will never get over his posture. I don't care how much I love the guy. That's fucking weird way to stand.
Yeah.
Ass out, chest out.
Maybe you're right, though, because maybe that's like a starting position for him, so maybe he's just always ready to go.
Yeah.
And I am underestimating what he's going to do. I don't know.
I don't believe Trump's going to go out without a bang.
Well, he's got a few days left, so we better start figuring out what he's going to do.
I completely agree with you that this whole censoring bullshit is going to push a certain political party too far.
Well, a certain sect of the right.
And when you push... I mentioned this last week on the podcast, when everybody was so shocked, whether it's Antifa, whether it was a false flag, or whether it was Trump supporters, when you push a political party or when you push a subsect of a group of people too far, they're going to snap and they're going to fight back. Right? That's what happened with BLM. A cop killed George Floyd.
That was the breaking point. And the African American community has been pushed too far. They didn't want it. They were not going to accept it anymore.
Right? And I agree. I don't care about George Floyd's past, about his criminal past. What that cop did was wrong, and what that led into was the black community screaming at the top of their lungs, "You need to hear us." And then they started burning down buildings because you're not hearing us. So if Twitter and Facebook are going to continue to censor right-wing people or the Republican Party and strangle them, this isn't going to end peacefully. No point in history has this tactic ever ended peacefully. Back when the Civil War started, this shit didn't work.
So here's what, you're the conspiracy theorist guy on the show, right? When does it become they want this to happen? They want people to get violent and lash out and attack and shoot things, right?
I have a date for that.
I'm saying they want to first of all, it's historically proven, right? The government and the United States, like the elite, have always tried to keep people divided. When does it become they want this to happen? They want people to be pushed into a corner, lash out, attack. Then you have your justification for...
You tilt it further this way.
You have your justification for...
I had to bring my arm back down. Come on, man.
Suspension of rights, martial law, changing the
I will
laws
never
of
agree
the
with martial
Second
law.
Amendment, things like that. If people show up and use AR-15s against whoever at the state capitol, bet your bottom dollar that first fucking bill Joe Biden is gonna.
I already said this.
A suspension of the Second Amendment.
I already said this to you.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
So yes, and I agree with you. When do they want this? They got it on January 6th when Trump or undercover Antifa Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. They got their reason. What happened on January 6th is what the Democrats have been praying for the past 4 years, for some Trump supporter to act up. Now, a 100 people ruined it for the entire MAGA movement.
Which is kind of funny.
Yes. But you know what, though? A few hundred people ruined it for all the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, it
sure.
did sit because like everybody.
Once you burn down a Target, your movement don't matter anymore. Once you storm the Capitol, it don't matter no more.
Fuck
Target,
Target.
yeah.
It's once you kick a small business owner to death,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they find you, and it turns out you're not disenfranchised at all. In fact, your family's quite wealthy.
Yeah.
Then you ruined it.
So they've already wanted this, and they've already gotten what they want. And I said this a week ago after what took place on January 6th. The second Biden gets into office, I can promise you, to push this agenda further, there's going to be some shooting in a mall with some guy
And the mass shootings will start happening again.
Yes, there's going to be a guy in an American flag T-shirt and a MAGA Trump hat that's going to shoot up a fucking mall with an AR-15, and there goes your Second Amendment. It's going to be so easy to fucking knock these dominoes down to get exactly what they want. That's why, listen, we need to be open-minded. We need to be critically thinking. People like the three of us can't accept what happens in front of our eyes. We need to question this. The people that are listening to this can't buy every narrative. Listen, whether Joe Biden won this election fair and square or it was a fraudulent election, this is going to be our future. By the end of the month, we're going to be in a new America, and we can't let this shit fly. And it's up to people like us to fucking call out the bullshit.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Once the Biden administration takes over, whether your political views, and my political views don't align, we are the last line to give America the eye-opening fucking stance that they need. And that's pretty fucking pathetic for as great as America is, because there's 3 idiots sitting behind these cameras right now speaking to you guys. I don't know who's dumber, the people speaking or the people listening, but we are the last line of defense to figure out what is going on. And if this Capitol riot was a false flag or not, we need to call this out. Everything is about to change.
There's nothing wrong with discussing those ideas.
Twitter Jack will tell you something otherwise.
You could propose that they were a false flag, and then I can say that they're not. That shouldn't be a conversation that's allowed to happen.
It's not the problem. It's the fact that one political party gets a leg up on another political party because of these.
That's what it really is. That's the goal.
That's the
here.
real problem.
As you said before, Democrats are really good at this shit. They're doing
So,
what they're good at.
Any final statements, boys?
Yeah, I mean,
You hated being here. It was the worst night of your life.
yeah.
That's it. Good night, folks.
Goodbye.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have anything to say. I mean, I'm sure people who listen to the show probably have an idea of the deception that goes on a daily basis, not even necessarily through like fake news, but just spinning it and framing it in a different way. And so I would say you don't have to. You can be whatever you want. Just try to. You're never going to get objective, unbiased news, not from you or me. You're never going to get it anymore. It just doesn't exist. So the best you can do is to try to listen to a bunch of different people, give their opinions, and see which one makes the most sense to you.
Right.
Also, do your own research.
What works? We said this with COVID. Do what you think is right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the problem with that is a lot of retarded people doing what they're thinking.
That's not our problem.
Right. That's
Not our problem.
Become your problem when they're.
We could survive. Me and him could survive in the woods for quite a long time. We're all right.
I could survive on the streets. I'll suck some dick.
That's your fucking problem.
Easy money. I'm an entrepreneur.
You show up to the woods, you'll be sucking some woodland dick.
There you go. It's wood critters. Plug your show.
Yeah, go for it, Zach. Let's go.
Yeah, Unfit Statesman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. I guess I'm done with Google now. They deny. I don't know why, but I just can't get on the
Communists.
platform. Maybe. At Unfit Statesman on Twitter, at Unfit Statesman on Instagram, at Unfit Statesman on Gab now. And I downloaded Telegram, but I don't have a profile yet. But I'm sure I'll be at Unfit Statesman on there as well, and Discord.
All right.
Same handle, because I found a handle finally that I can use ubiquitously, and nobody's taken it. I don't have to add any numbers.
Right.
At Unfit Statesman.
All right. First and foremost, between me and Skaggs, we are so happy that you were here.
This
Zach,
was great.
dude,
Finally. I'm leaning. I was doing Zoom, and I was wondering, because you say you're like, I'm in upstate New York, and when I think of upstate New York, I think of like Albany and Buffalo. But I mean,
this is upstate for you.
This is upstate. Well, this is just
we
New
were
York
in
for
upstate Connecticut for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind taking a little hop over the Hudson.
Yeah. But I gotta say, I was super excited all day to have you
This was fucking
in
great.
person, man.
Absolutely.
It was
I
rock
gotta
hard.
say, yes. I'm super excited. You
You
are
got a little dot on your jeans.
a little bit. I fucking ruined those shits. I gotta say, like, you're our first podcast friend.
Yeah.
Our first podcast ally.
I don't
and
even remember how we started.
you messaged us, bro. You you found our page and you
Huh.
messaged us, and we did a joint fucking show, and we've had you on Zoom 2 times, and we were on your show once, and I was super excited to have you on. I gotta
was
say,
great.
I really am excited.
It's much better. It's
much
easier.
better.
yes,
person, yeah.
super excited to have you here. So thank you for coming on, man.
The pleasure was all mine.
I bet it fucking was, pal.
You're a couple of beautiful interlocutors.
The only problem is the door locks from the outside on the way out, so
Yeah.
there's only one way out of here.
Listen, was it through the back door?
Yeah. All right.
Isn't that funny? Easy. Easy.
All right.
Easy.
He's had a couple of drinks.
Yeah. It's the end of the show. I am so excited. I have to take a piss in the worst way. So,
All right.
Doom Nation, thank you for fucking listening. As always, it's Skaggs and the Captain in the Captain's Quarter with the Unfit Statement. Make sure you follow him at Unfit Statesman on Instagram. And he just told you where he was, so just rewind it a little bit and follow him on absolutely everything. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe button on our YouTube page. Help us reach our goal. And you can find us on the communist channels of Facebook at 2DoomMen, communist Instagram at 2DoomMen_ podcast, and everywhere else on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Prime, all that bullshit is at 2DoomMen. Thank you, Doom Nation. As always, we'll be back next week with some more bullshit.
Yep.
Adios. Say goodbye, everybody.